Mollusk, come here. Are you stealing the show now too? Look, it's Mollusk. Mollusk never comes to her daddy. She never comes to her mommy either. She's always scared. But look, she's on YouTube. The little Mollusk. Oh, good nuts. Welcome back to Old War Stories with Uncle Jay. This one is entitled Guilty Kilty. Now, I spelled this wrong purposely to hide the name, but I had a teacher by the name of Kilty in the 5th grade. Oh boy, yeah. Kilty was, at the time, going through a very nasty divorce. She was also a royal bitch. So 5th grade, this would have to be around 1989. I got sick that year and then got a urinary tract infection that year. So I was out from school quite a bit. And I also broke my arm. And I told that story as well. So that was not a good year and not a good time for me. In addition to all of that, I had this damn teacher. To make matters worse, we had a student teacher whose name was Mazuka. She was even more of a bitch. Every night, without fail, it was 5 subjects worth of homework. English, math, social studies, science, and whatever else it was, I don't remember. 5 subjects of homework every fucking night. Even on Fridays, of course. And this went on, and the social studies was the worst. Because first off, I hated social studies. Still hate to this day. I can't give a shit about the Iroquois Indians and how they were settlers in whatever era. I don't care. I don't care. Not my thing. So that was just to start with. The social studies tests were also impossible because they were not multiple choice. They were answer this question using a sentence. You know, where did the Iroquois Indians first settle? And you couldn't just say, I'm going to make something up, Oklahoma. I don't know where I don't give a shit. But whatever, you couldn't just write Oklahoma. The Iroquois Indians settled first in Oklahoma. So you had to put it into a sentence, which was ridiculous. So that's the shit they made us do. Using the answer to part 1, using the answer in question 1, what year was that? You know, and basically every question ran into the next. So if you missed a question, you were out for like the next 3 or 4. Nobody did well on these tests, including me. These tests were so bad. I mean, I went to my parents. I said, what the fuck is this? And they had gone to the school board and showed it to them and said, what the fuck is this? And the school board said, you're absolutely right. This is like 12th grade work here, not 5th grade. So the teacher, who was going through a very nasty divorce at the time, with this student teacher no less, who was taking up much of the workload, was not a happy camper either, which made things even worse. Until we came back to school after Christmas in January. And it was almost like a new leaf turned over. The social studies tests were easier. Everybody started doing a lot better and all kinds of stuff like that. But like I said, I was going through a lot of turmoil that year between breaking my arm and then getting sick and then having a UTI. On top of that, I was not in good shape, and then to have to do this work was not good. And then 5 subjects worth of home. It was just a complete and utter shit show, no matter how you want to slice and dice it. In January, Mizuka left, so it was just Guilty Kilty, and I only say that because it rhymes. Anyway, during the turmoil, my dad tried to sweeten the pot. This is nothing he ever did. And he basically told me that if I end up getting an A in social studies, he would give me my own toolbox full of tools. If somebody offered me that now, I'd be like, oh, fuck yeah. But at the time, I was a kid. Okay, I was, 89? So I was 10 years old, 11 years old, something like that. Did I want a toolbox full of tools? No. If I needed a screwdriver, I knew they were in the other room there. There was a big bucket with screwdrivers and pliers and all kinds of shit, and I'd just go get that. What do I need my own for? It's going to be helpful later on in life. It doesn't help me now. What I really wanted was a computer that had a hard drive. Well. Now, we have to consider computers back in 1989. We were running an IBM PC Junior, which was floppy only. Now, there were hard disk options for that. They were super expensive. They were add-ons made by a third-party company, and it basically really was not suited to a hard drive. But that's what I wanted. It would make life so much easier than swapping floppy disks, because I was always a computer nerd. Hard drives in general were prohibitively expensive. In the early days of the IBM PC, you would be looking at $100 a megabyte. You would get a 10 megabyte hard drive, and that was $1,000. Could you imagine paying $1,000 for a hard drive today? And it was 10 megabytes. So the price per megabyte has plummeted since the early days. But that's what I wanted. And I figured, since I was so proficient with the computer and always on it and learning and doing things, that would have been better to help guide my career. But no, a toolbox full of tools. Well, I'll tell you something. I didn't get an A, and I didn't get a toolbox full of tools. I did get, later on, when I moved into this house, many years later, a couple of tool bags. So, not a toolbox proper, but sort of like a briefcase kind of thing. It was basically the kind of stuff that my dad had from IBM when he worked for them. He would carry a briefcase that was full of tools. So this was pretty heavy stuff. And he had to travel around New York City with that. But anyways, he gave me 2 of them. One was filled with stuff, and the other one was like half filled with, here, you might use this, you might use that, you might use this, you might use that. I very rarely even open those, because I got my own tools. And I got some when I worked at Tiny Middle years later. Just acquired them over the years from various sources, bought some, whatever it was. So I had my own tools, so I really had no use for that. And even to this day, it's very rare I will go in there. The only thing I don't have that is in there is a brass rod. The IBM official brass rod, as they called it. And basically you would put it on a fastener or something and hammer it, so you didn't hammer up the head of the fastener. But I wanted a computer with a hard drive. That came from my now deceased uncle 2 years later. No? Almost 4 years later. 4 years later. Went to my grandfather's house, and somehow the computer ended up there. I don't know how, where, why, what, because I don't think my uncle was still living there, which was his father at the time. I don't, it's hazy on all that, and he's long gone now, unfortunately, so I don't know. But anyways, he got one from his job that was forgotten about or whatever. And it was an IBM PS2 Model 30. It was essentially the PC Junior with a hard drive. It did not have the enhanced sound capability of the PC Junior, but that was all right. And everything was proprietary. Now, if you know anything about PS2 machines, they came out with a new bus plane called Microchannel, and this was not a microchannel machine. The PS2 model 25 and 30 were regular ISA 8-bit slots like you found in the IBM PC, PC XT, the PC AT, XT286, all those old machines like that. The PC Portable, I think it was. All of those had regular 8-bit ISA slots, or Industry Standard Association, as they became known as. That was state-of-the-art at the time. But no, this one had ISA. However, it did have a hard drive, but that was also proprietary, but that didn't matter at the time because it worked. But I could not use said computer. Why could I not use said computer? That's because the PC Junior was basically incompatible with everything else on the planet. The monitor would not connect to it. Even if you got an adapter cable, it was the wrong type of monitor and would not synchronize to the signal. So the monitor couldn't work with it. The connection for the keyboard was an RJ11 looking connector on the PC Junior, if you had a wired connection, which we did. But the Model 30, being a PS2 system, had that round port called a PS2 port. Yeah, that's where it came from. Yep, so that had that. Couldn't use that either. The monitor was going to cost money. My dad, somewhere along the way, found, believe it or not, an IBM Model F, the coveted Model F keyboard. Oh, not the Model M, this was before that. The Model F, and it had the 5-pin large DIN connector, not the smaller 6-pin PS2 connector. Somehow, my dad realized that, he said, well, maybe we could use that. And he actually bought an adapter. Where he got it from, how, I don't know. But it was a 5-pin to 6-pin adapter. These have been around. It's nothing new. Plugged it in. Couldn't see anything on the screen. Couldn't see anything on the screen because I didn't have a screen. But the keyboard didn't work. I knew this simply from the error beep at post. And how did I know? Actually, I couldn't have found out. I was just a guess is what it was. The 5-pin DIN plug on this Model F keyboard, to me, looked just slightly bent. I don't know. There's just something didn't seem right about it. From somewhere, I ended up with another coiled keyboard cable with the same 5-pin DIN connector. and it was not bent. And I didn't know enough about computers at the time, so my dad kind of did this, but we opened up the Model F and swapped out the cable. Plugged it into the Model 30, turned it on, and no more error beep. And it went and tried to boot up off the floppy drive. Wow. Or maybe it actually went to boot off of the hard drive, I think. And it worked. You heard so the light on it flash, and it made its sounds because it was a stepper motor drive, and it made really cool sounds, actually. But I still couldn't see what I was doing. Back in those days, you could hook a dot matrix printer up to the parallel port on the machine, which it had. So I made a boot disk off of the PC Junior, which we had upgraded and gotten a 3.5-inch floppy drive, which is what the PS2 had. Made a boot disk, was able to boot up off of that disk, or maybe even not, I can't remember. Had the printer hooked up, and I hit the print screen key on the keyboard. Back in those days, it would take a dump of the screen, which was text, and send it directly to the printer. So what you had on the screen is exactly what was printed out. You just hit print screen and it printed immediately. There was no printer spooler, printing started, printing complete. There was none of that shit. No way. This was dot matrix. It went fucking instant. You hit print screen, didn't go to a clipboard so you could paste it in somewhere. None of that bullshit. It went right to the goddamn printer. And I could do a DIR and redirect that to LPT1, and I got a directory listing. And how and when and where and why I got a monitor. Oh, yeah. So here's what happened. My dad finally said, well, we got the computer. I mean, I guess we can get a monitor. Not knowing anything, he went to a computer surplus store. So this was old computer equipment that was turned in, was going to be thrown out, tested to find it worked, something, and we got an IBM 9515 monitor. And it had a 15-pin plug on it that looks like a VGA plug today. Because, guess what? That's exactly what it was. However, the Model 30 had not VGA graphics, but a much lesser known, only used on the Model 25 and Model 30, called MCGA, Multicolor Graphics Adapter. While it had the same connector, the refresh rate, the horizontal and vertical refresh or synchronization rates, I can't explain it, were dissimilar. And the 9515 was looking for that. If you had a MultiSync monitor, which was a sub-brand or model that NEC came out with, that would have worked. However, those were not common in the day. And later on, MultiSync became sort of a buzzword for any monitor that could synchronize to different refresh rates and things like that. But the 9515 just gave a garbled, fucked up display, so we couldn't use it. Well, he talked to my uncle, and he actually sent another computer over. And that one worked with that monitor. That was a 386SX. So somewhere in the mix, my dad ended up stumbling into an 8512 monitor, which was the 8500 series, was the PS2 line. So it was an actual PS2 monitor, and the 8512, as it turns out, was one of the monitors that IBM offered for use with their PS2 machines. And it plugged in and worked with the Model 30. And a keyboard came with the new one, so now I had the Model 30 with a working screen, and had a working screen that didn't work with the Model 30, but worked with the 55SX. So now I had two computers with hard drives, but it was still 4 to even 5 years late. Everything went downhill after that. And I worked at Tiny Metal, became a computer technician. But it came late. That was an important lesson in life. Heinz Ketchup had a slogan years ago called "The best things come to those who wait." And if you're old enough to remember the glass Heinz ketchup bottles, you go turn them to pour some on your plate or whatever it was, and the ketchup wouldn't come out. And then you'd have to, people would take the bottle and you'd try one of those, and that didn't work, and you tried harder, and then you gave it to somebody else, and they tried and they couldn't get it out, and then finally, and then on the table, or on your fish or something that you didn't want ketchup on, There was a waitress one time years ago with the glass Heinz bottles. And if you remember those, it had a skinny neck and it widened out. And then it had like flat sides going around, 6 or 8 sides, I can't remember, I think 6. But right above that, where it was tapering down to the wider section, it had the number 57 on the glass, like not embossed, but raised on the glass. I can't explain it. But the number 57 went around like 3-4 times. And there I was in a restaurant, and I'm trying to get the ketchup out, and it's not working. And the waitress came by, and she said, "Hit the 57. I said, "What?" She says, "Yeah, hold the bottle and hit the 57. Tap, tap, tap. Came out. I said, "Are you kidding me? All those years?" She got a nice tip. And now they're in plastic squeezy bottles. So nowadays, even ketchup has to be fucking immediate. Can't even wait 20 seconds trying to get ketchup out of a bottle. Has to be right now. Not 3 seconds from now, right now. Yeah. Well, back in my day, I had to wait 4 fucking years. But I finally got what I wanted. I don't know if that's really a good thing or a bad thing, but I finally got it. But that is something that I had to learn the lesson the hard way. And waiting, like maybe you wanted as a kid a new Nintendo game for Christmas, or Super Nintendo, or PS2 game, or whatever fucking gaming systems you have today. Maybe we'll get you that for Christmas, or maybe Santa will bring you that for any of that bullshit. Okay, and then maybe you do wait, and Christmas, it's July, and you wait 6 more months, and there it is, Christmas Day, that new game, and you finally get it. But that was only 6 months. 4 years for me. So if something doesn't happen immediately for me, I'm just going to have to wait. And that's as simple as it was. There's just no two ways about it. That's just how it was. So it was really an important lesson in life that I ended up learning. Much, much more important than the fucking Iroquois Indians. Patience is a virtue. So just because you want it now doesn't mean that it's a good idea. You might want it right now, but guess what? Remember I said back in the early days, $1,000 for a 10 megabyte hard drive, $100 a megabyte? You know what the price per megabyte was later on? That 55SX, which was outdated at the time, had a 60 megabyte hard drive. 60 megabytes. Huge for somebody who's coming from floppy disks. I could put everything on there. I mean, fucking everything on there. Oh, man. That was serious, serious shit. And the old PC Junior, well, I'll tell you, that actually got a lot of usage because the PS2s did not have a 5 1/4 inch floppy drive, and we had a lot of stuff on 5 1/4 inch floppies. I used to have some right here, but I moved them. Did not have 5 1/4 inch floppy drives. You could get an external, and in fact, I own one, which came much later. That was acquired, but I did not have it at the time. So I copied a lot of floppy disks, file by file, file by file, file by file, to the 3.5 inch discs, which I could then put in the PS2, so I could then copy that stuff to the hard drive, only to go back to the PC Junior and get the next disc and copy that over. And yes, there was XCopy, which would load the contents first into RAM and then dump the RAM to the target disk, which definitely was a lot faster. So you could do that, but then you needed yet another floppy drive that had the XCopy.com, or was it EXE? I can't remember. Command there. It was EXE, I believe. So you needed that. So now you got 3 floppy drives, all have to spin up, get up to speed, seek to the right track. It was slow, is what I'm telling you. Again, patience is a virtue, and I indeed used the fuck out of that machine. That lived on for some time until another computer arrived some years later. That's another story. But that actually worked. If I still had the 9515 at the time, it was certainly compatible with it. But it's lost to the sands of time. Anyway, that was the story of Guilty Kilty, which was really actually a computer-related old war story. And that is what sort of sparked it, if you will. Because I think, I don't know that any of that would have even happened in such a timely fashion. And I'm using the word timely in the correct sense. A lot of people say that wasn't very timely, meaning that wasn't very fast. And that's not what timely means. Timely means in a timely manner, which means it didn't take too long. It took just the right amount of time. You arrived to school in a timely fashion. You're not late, you're not early, you're just about there 5 minutes before. In a very timely fashion. A project finishes on time. That was a timely project. A lot of people use the word improperly, but anyway, that was the story. So yeah, if things don't come to me in life, like I guess it's many weeks ago at this point that you're watching this old war story, I had a series on fixing the Wren issue on my telephone line. Well, that was 6 years in the making. A lot of that was my not wanting to spend money, not thinking it would work because the thing I did go for didn't work. The networking issue plagued me for like a year that I had previously as well. So yeah, things take a long time in my life. The gray hair, the baldness. Life has not been kind to me. But I've learned to wait for things. And if you're not a millennial and don't need your Starbucks right now, and see something and you say, "Oh, I'm buying that." No, you could wait and find a better price, or wait till it goes on sale, or something. If we're out, like we were with my parents at my grandfather's house in Brooklyn when I was a kid over the years, and the ice cream truck would come by. We didn't have no ice cream trucks in my neighborhood. Daddy, can we get ice cream? Can we get ice cream? No, we have ice cream at home. We're not home. Well, we have some there, so no. And I'd have to wait till I get home. And guess what? When I got home, I didn't want ice cream. That's right. So, yeah, waiting is a very important thing in life. You do too much of it, you turn old and gray and bald, and I don't know. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.